All right, we're going on to really my favorite channel, the one you'll find me most often. How do I get rid of that? What is that? Okay. We're going to be going into posts here. So it's so odd, but I swear somebody, either Thomas DeLure or somebody with his campaign, is trolling my channels. And every single time I post something up one day, the next day he's doing exactly what I was talking about. And I've been talking about what I've been talking about. I posted something up about oxalates last night. I posted something up about cancer research, glutamine, glutamate, right? And blueberries, if they ain't on that list, then I don't even want to see it. But green bananas, that's something new that I learned. So green banana flour is what Tom DeLure was talking about there. John Campbell here, discussing a very compelling subject that he's been looking at for years. This gentleman right here just went to this huge funeral director convention, and you'd be surprised as to the number of people where they're exhuming these huge white clots within them that almost look like squid a lot of the time, and they are not fatty deposits. It's a very scary thing. He doesn't even need to make the connection. This is not a conspiracy theory man right here, but he came from a professional medical background and he's looking at this, and that's got to tell you something. Dr. John Campbell, very worth staying up to date with him. I think he's up to he's already got 80,000 views on that. People should be looking at this in mass. This gets into this Amplex. This guy straight up just steals open source information. He figured it out a long time ago that you could do that. So the only unique products that he comes out with are AI driven, but I like his channel because he picks out some good ones, and he's not ideologically fundamentalist Christian based in a lot of the things that he chooses. This is a big one right here that nobody's talking about. This huge cyber attack on one specific individual. But the marked thing about this is if you get into reading this article, right, which is that this was all done in less than a minute, right? This 37 terabyte attack was done in under a minute. That tells you about some really scary things. And what, another reason, something else that's not being talked about in the discourse of Iran is that there are some very sophisticated drone technology coming out of that area. And then here's Amplex getting into stealing other people's content, but this is in reference obviously to Tartaria and how unique and required it is to be looking at that, because there are people who say that there's anywhere from 800 to 1,000 years that are missing from our recent 2,000-year timeline. Very compelling. Obviously, this speaks for itself. You're looking at the Rothschild's family. This was posted up on X. This just shows the age-old adage information that should be hardwired into us by now, where we understand the families, the Pharisees, the Khazarian mob or mafia, the implications and the ties. I don't know. I'll put things up because I think even though Dr. Todd Grande is or Grand, I don't know how he likes to pronounce it, is a stuffed shirt. He really tries to come out like this highbrow, sort of matriculating Ivy League sort of person, but I do like his sardonic take on people and society, and he justifies it with every single episode. So take that for a grain of salt. This guy, the Conspiracy Files, oh my gosh, he comes out with some great stuff. He showed him a picture of himself on Father's Day and how close he is to his father. I still think about Tyler from Secure Team and how he lost his father a few years back and how it affected him. So, but it's all about this astro world, right? Scott, this Travis Scott, this rapper, and these rituals that are being done out in the open that are satanic, but they really go much further beyond that to this occult traditions that seem to be seen when the tepes are being investigated, human sacrifices, altars. How old is this fucking religion and where did it come from? Bizarre, right? John Sweeney. Like, people will laugh about this and think this is just a joke, but he was a very high level martial artist. And this was an aspect, just a snippet of a campaign with some kung fu videos. But I gotta show you this, come on. I gotta play it. The tiger. That's amazing, isn't it? So I had some things that I wanted to read about here, and I think I clouded out some of the information. So here's some high dose. This is what I came out with. This is not a positive thing when it comes to vitamin C, but it furthers my point with what these heightened cortisol levels are all about, the antioxidant effects, and I think it brings into play the requirement for methylene blue, methylation specifically, but methylene blue as a dye. And the amazing thing where you get into ultraviolet light energies that Dr. Jack Cruz does talk about, I think that the blue dye itself has healing properties in the fact that it's just blue, which is an amazing thing, but I think it goes far beyond that. And then of course Dr. Thomas Levy, he gets into talking about there as far as antioxidant effects and repair, that methylene blue even rivals vitamin C at times, right? But you do not have a methylene blue deficiency, and that is a point that should be made very clear here. So it's nice to have these types of effects, right? But this gets into the oxalate production, the high oxalate production of high dose vitamin C. Ascorbic acid in general is not known to directly cause water retention, especially visceral water held deep around organs, not just subcutaneous, right? But your skin is an organ as well, so that's why we include that, right? Does that make sense? However, there are indirect mechanisms and contextual factors that might make it seem like high dose vitamin C is contributing to fluid retention, especially if you're noticing bloating or less muscle definition on a carnivore or ketogenic diet, right? And I would say what needs to be included there and looked at, and what ChatGPT should feel prompted on. I don't think I got this from ChatGPT. I think I took this from the web. Here's what might be happening. I could be wrong on that. Here's what might be happening: electrolyte imbalance. High doses of vitamin C are diuretic for many people. This can cause increased excretion of sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. If sodium drops too low, your body may hold onto water to try and correct the osmotic balance, especially viscerally. Symptoms: feeling puffy, less definition, fatigue, cravings for salt. What I would add is a good mineral research company, right? Product, the 40,000 volts. That's why we take that in a liquid form and put that in with our water, right? Is because we want to make sure that we're getting those nutrients throughout the day in a very quick. So when we talk about acute to chronic, right? We want the positive chronic effects to occur, but acutely we want to get the most out of it, and that's where the liquid mineral aspect, highly absorbable minerals, come into play. Don't need much. 5 to 10 drops out of that bottle is plenty. Vitamin C and cortisol interaction. Vitamin C can blunt cortisol acutely, but paradoxically in some chronic high doses may affect adrenal signaling over time, especially if under stress or underfed. So this is why we do, right? This drives me crazy. It's almost like, well, if you would do these studies that are based on long, slow distance, LSD as it's called, all day walking, which is what I do on this channel, all day, every day. That's when I do most of my live streams, right? We're producing a cortisol effect. Oftentimes, we're doing it fasted on nothing but protein, so we have our G&G or our gluconeogenic effect, right? And then today, I cheated last night. I was on the carnivore for 2 weeks. I had 2 ice creams, 10 Oreos. I felt the need, so I did it, and even 1 Hot Pocket. I feel awesome today. Would I feel awesome if I did it all day? No. I felt energy. I'm using the energy. I'm in glycolysis, and I'm burning it away. And that's the whole point to this channel, is we go through the gear shifting. Why did I eat that crap? Because I'm broke. I spent all my money, all my benefits, all my state benefits on carnivore, $300. I'd also bought my kids for snacks the Oreos. I can't talk about them too much because it just makes you want it, right? Especially after walking all morning, miles and miles, and the ice cream. That the rest of it's theirs, but I didn't have anything else. So around the same time, what was I doing? I was eating my protein powder custard. That if you go on to Rogue Beast Warrior with an RBW at the end, Rogue Beast Warrior, rbw.blogspot.com, I have a lot of recipes up there and all this information and more. Let's get back to it. Don't want to seem scattered here. We just discussed vitamin C and cortisol interaction, which I believe they wouldn't even bring that subject up if they were talking specifically about driven, right? We get into G&G and so forth, but exercise-driven cortisol production. This could lead to compensatory fluid retention or hormonal dysregulation, especially in the visceral area. Oxalate dumping. This is something real. This is something that could be said, and I believe that this is a good argument for high volume walking, high dose vitamin C intake, right? Some areas where oxalates are created. Why not add in methylene blue to dump off those oxalates real quick? If you're doing strict carnivore and recently came off a high oxalate diet, taking in high dose vitamin C might convert to oxalates in the body, right? So that's coming from a very chronic standpoint. As I said just now, prior to, I think methylene blue could really add into that as an antioxidant. Let's see, we've got a little more about oxalates. Oxalate dumping is associated with inflammation, fluid retention. So I'll reference back to Thomas DeLore and what he just posted up today. Green bananas and green banana flour seems to really be, and I would say to some extent blueberries, right? So you could make some yummy muffins, right? That's what I'm thinking, blueberry muffins out of the green banana flour and the blueberries. Oxalate dumping is associated with inflammation, fluid retention, and odd water distribution, sometimes described as visceral swelling. And I did a whole live stream on this channel about a gear shifting diet where you're not being struck by the confines of stupid overarching terms such as carnivore or vegan or vegetarian or gluconeogenic, right, which is more scientifically based, but still, right, to refer to these things in a dietary sense, we're just talking about nutrients. We're just talking about the best form of these nutrients. We're just talking about a gear shifting diet. That's how it should be seen from a critical standpoint and how it affects you as an individual. That's all. And then of course, you're looking here at data and data research that seems to affect millions. Other people don't think that everything is going to apply directly to you. We're all unique, we're all individuals, but for the most part, this scientific research and data does directly correlate. When we get into histamine, you could even look at brain histidine levels, right? But that is considered kind of a conditionally associated or essential aromatic type amino acid that is added into the list with phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan. Okay. Histamine, mast cell reactions, vitamin C, and usually antihistamine, but very high doses might in some sensitive individuals trigger paradoxical mast cell activation, especially with leaky gut. Okay. This can cause temporary bloating, puffiness, and visceral tightness. Suggested actions: try reducing the dose to 250 to 1,000 milligrams or 1 gram per day for a few days and see if the bloating goes down. But you might also see, if you're on high dose vitamin C, right, you might also see some effects that have been found, noted, where when you heavily reduce your vitamin C intake, suddenly you start to feel sick, right? You feel like you're succumbing to a cold or whatnot, right? You're more sensitive to things, so keep that in mind. I actually have contemplated cutting my vitamin C down, and I can never find a good enough reason. I think when you keep it high, your body over time, especially if you're training hard, which I need to get into now before I run out of energy, you're doing your high output energy type training, like I'm about to get on the TRX and do some intense training. If you're doing that, you're looking at capillary bed density. You're looking at the Hameroff and Penrose type research done with microtubules, aromatic amino acids, and so forth, right? Where you're looking at the connection, the amount of information, right? The amount of blood and blood supply, So capillary bed density. So you're looking at a faster, more acute exchange with not only electromagnetics, bioluminescence when it gets into aromatic amino acids, and also interactions, right? Which you could say is very much heavily correlated back to the synaptic cleft and acetylcholine, right? And so I would say, out of that long-winded speech, maybe there could be some research with nicotine done in this also that would show some positive effects. Increase sodium intake, at least 5 grams a day on carnivore. Track water intake. Don't overhydrate without electrolytes, right? Hyponatremic. Check your potassium, magnesium, especially if using diuretics or caffeine, okay? So again, I think that is a lead into what I just talked about. Maybe nicotine might be something to work with the nicotinamide receptors, and even an NAC and a niacin supplement. You might want to look into that, right? Just taking a little bit higher dosage. Test body reaction to powdered versus liposomal vitamin C, which is very expensive, right? Versus buffered forms. Some cause more fluid shifts. And that's what Thomas Levy is involved with too. If you want to see some research, look into his orthomolecular research, or just go into the orthomolecular.com archives that I showed yesterday. Summary, I might even go do a query right on their AI, because it's an amazing AI tool. Vitamin C itself doesn't inherently cause visceral water retention, but in certain metabolic states like carnivore, keto, detox, electrolyte imbalance, high doses may tip the system, leading to what feels like water retention. It's almost always correctable with electrolyte balancing and dosage adjustment. And that's why I talked about taking in a liquid mineral source, right, where you always have it there. You might want to have a couple, some that are just based on electrolytes, but I find the 40,000 volts more than enough, and especially when you are on carnivore, just like I talked about in this live stream, my last live stream, just respecting a morning carnivore routine, that is getting the 1, 2, 3 hit of beef liver, sardines, and of course eggs, right? Taking your magnesium and your first hit, big spike of high dose vitamin C, 2 to 3,000 milligrams, right in the morning. Say you're getting up at 4 a.m. Or you could go into a G&G gluconeogenic 4 or 5 hour window, and then do that around 10 a.m. to noon, where you're doing that big full nutrition meal, then you could fast the rest of the day, or you could go into yet another gear shift where closer toward 3 to 4 p.m. you could shift toward doing anti-inflammatory, more vegan, vegetarian focused, where you could focus in on the green banana or green banana flour, maybe mixing in some almonds, slivers of almonds, blueberries, dark leafy greens, right? Following my drift there. Maybe even a little probiotic, some wild honey. So you're completely shifting it around where you're really focusing on the enzymes. And around that time, I would say taking in a little fermented sauerkraut and some ACV, right? And focusing on the other half of who you are, right? I think together, if you were to create this gear shifting diet, you could really come up with something very special and unique, right? Yes, especially, and I will digress and say this for a moment, even if you're doing vegan, vegetarian, you may want to consider taking in some beef liver capsules. Just saying. Yes, especially on carnivore or ketogenic diet, there are several precautions to consider when taking high dose vitamin C. Anything above 1,000 milligrams a day. Here's a comprehensive list of precautions with your context in mind. Oxalate formation, especially from ascorbic acid. And this may be the primary cause when you look at Linus Pauling passing away, I'm just speculating, of prostate cancer, and his wife years before, about 15 years before, passing away of stomach cancer, them both being huge advocates of high dose vitamin C. That could be something that could be heavily related, and something that we don't want to cast blame or have assumptions, but, right, we got to take data and information and source it the best we can as an individual. Ascorbic acid can convert into oxalates, especially in doses above 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day. Very important. I never say look past taking in information. Always highlight information, but in the defense of what I do is I am creating a cortisol spike by going into high level all day walking and training. I've been taking more breaks, just doing these little videos, and I'm going to do that. And this is a good shift mid-afternoon. You can see it's 3 p.m. where I'm going to go in and go onto the TRX at this point, right? So we got about 3 to 5 hours of walking, right? So I would say that's a really good argument in the evening to observe those power foods, right? The green bananas, green banana flour, right? Maybe some, so these are all low in glutamine as well, okay? The leafy greens, I would almost say that's a good pre-indicator and something to follow, right? So you're coming from all this animal protein, but again, I said yesterday, going through another video, that eggs and beef, or beef and eggs, if you're carnivore, respectively, right, is low in glutamine, or glutamates, if you want to call them, terminology there. Carnivore eaters coming off plant-heavy diets may already be dumping stored oxalates, so added C could worsen symptoms. Again, I think high-level walking mitigates that. It creates a shift. Most of the studies that are being done being done from a sedentary, non-trained standpoint, and even more so when they do take training into consideration. It's oftentimes in zone 3 or 4. They're never looking at zone 1, and I think that really needs to be considered. But I do get joint pain, and I do probably get kidney stress to some extent, fluid shifts, rash, no, fatigue, yes. But after I had the cheat meal last night, I don't feel any fatigue at all. So I would chalk that up to glycolysis and other mediatory agents to shuttle vitamin C into appropriate systems, appropriate areas, but even more so, you're going to get a completely different thing out of that, out of the high dose vitamin C, doing glucose rich versus no glucose at all. that is going into ketones and even GNG to some extent, gluconeogenesis. Precaution, use sodium, ascorbic acid, or liposomal vitamin C to reduce oxalate conversion, avoid megadoses. I'm not going to avoid megadoses. I, for one, am taking this thing as far as I possibly can, and I am doing very high dose vitamin C. I'm going to continue to do so. Kidney stones risk, high doses increase oxaluria, oxalates in urine, which I found a considerable downshift, but in the beginning that was true, which can raise kidney stone risk, especially if dehydrated or low on magnesium citrate. I take magnesium along with my vitamin C. Now, I've started this week. I've done it for the past week and I've increased it. I'm taking in much more magnesium. That's something you need to take in if you're taking the magic 3, the big 3, right? You're taking in the beef liver, the sardines, the eggs, then you should take in magnesium and vitamin C. Precaution, drink enough mineral-rich water, take magnesium, which I add the liquid mineral research minerals in with my water. I put it in with ACV. Take magnesium citrate or glycinate. All right, so if you don't have the money, just take the cheapest magnesium in. You could chew on it, you could break it in half, but I think just taking one tab in and mediating, driving it with exercise forces a little more efficacy of shuttling into the cell. I can't prove that, but a lot of studies show that exercise mediated, right, oxidative stress can cause, and you have the absorption, can increase the absorption. We know that with vitamin C in terms of cortisol and GNG driven into the cell. Iron overload risk, yes, this is a risk in high meat diets. That is a risk, yes, but I think, again, the walking, the all-day walking, the low-level oxidative stress can assist in combating that, right? So vitamin C increases iron absorption, especially heme iron from red meat. That is something to consider. If you're already eating a lot of beef/liver, you could slowly build up iron stores, leading to oxidative stress, liver strain, or inflammation, which is why you want to use your body for what it was made for by putting oxidative stress all day long, cortisol levels all day long, all day strong, right? You want to build a resilience by exercising all day. Get training, gradual intensity training, all day walking, all day training, all day, every day. Precaution, monitor ferritin, iron saturation, and CRP if you're, I think, is that creatine? If you're on long-term high-dose C, high red meat option, take C away from meat meals. Let's take a look at that. Dose. What does it mean? Let's see the most. Oh, I'm on YouTube. I ain't gonna find anything out. So anyway, that went over some of the concerns, some of the conditions and preconditions, contraindications. And you see, well, so blood sugar interference, very high dose of vitamin C can interfere with glucometer readings and lab blood glucose tests, potentially giving false highs or lows. But I do still want to find that out. So blood test. Let's take a look. So measures level of C reaction, protein in your blood, or indicator of inflammation. So it's used to help diagnose and monitor various conditions, including infections, autoimmune disorders, and inflammatory diseases. So I would say maybe when you go on something like this, and you start that, you might have some situations where lupus or other autoimmune diseases are more discoverable from this, right? So keep that in mind. Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes we have to bring it out of the dark. Electrolyte shifts, the methylation we didn't get into, and I would say methylene blue is probably, again, something good to take in. In high doses, vitamin C stimulates detox pathways, including phase 1 liver detox. If phase 2 methylation conjugation is sluggish, you can experience a detox backlog, fatigue, bloating, brain fog. Again, I think methylene blue would add to that. So precautions: support with methylene donors, magnesium, B12, glycine, taurine, and takes breaks needed. So I think this is a good, so glycine, serine, right, which is blood glycine, taurine, which is, this is all about thinking, right? So I think glycine and taurine are two really good. Trimethylglycine might be something you want to look into, and then you also have glycine and proline, which creates the collagen, right? So I think those are two good supplements to take in if you're eating beef liver. Just saying. When to reduce or cycle off: persist visceral water retention, new bloating, joint pain, or cloudy urine, tiredness that doesn't improve with food or sleep. I mean, that's a given, especially if you're training and exercising. And I've never had energy ever on ketogenic diet. I hate them. I feel lots of energy when I'm just in gluconeogenesis prompted nutrition plans. I eat just protein for long periods of time, which I prefer. But I do think that ketosis is the most rapid way to lose fat, to get lean, and to get into a bracketed situation where then you can start to shift toward what I talk about, right? Is you're not necessarily trying to stay carnivore, but you're eating the best of carnivore. Again, the big magic 3: beef liver, sardines, and eggs, right? That's your takeaway. That's your walkaway. We should eat according to what we get from it, which is the nutrient-dense foods we're taking in. Get away from the blanket terms. Stop trying to be some sort of dogmatic, carnivore or vegan. Whatever the best offers, the blueberries, the dark leafy greens, right? When we're combating oxalates and so forth, when we're trying to figure out low glutamine rendering foods, keep your diet rich in it, but don't avoid sardines or other nuts unless you're sick and you're fighting cancer. Try to get the best of all these foods. So we talked about that, a shift between these gear shifting patterns. New bloating, joint pain. I do have joint pain, but I have less joint pain since I had lots of sugar yesterday. I feel way better. There's a need for it. Tiredness that doesn't improve with food or sleep. New onset of kidney discomfort or flank pain. Brain fog or jittery feeling despite clean diet. Sometimes you need to take a little of the poison in, folks. So this is the summary. If you're taking vitamin C for targeting therapeutic reasons, e.g. post-viral support, immune resilience, adrenal fatigue, it may be warranted short-term, but carnivore-based physiology is already very clean, and your antioxidant demand drops since there are fewer antioxidants from processed carbs or plant toxins. I would throw that one out completely. To me, that's just big misnomer. Open source data, I think there's always room for it, and I think that to take this open source information and then to posture yourself, you'll see what a hypocrite the AI is when you're talking from a standpoint of vegan and vegetarianism as being the superior compared to a carnivore diet. There's no way that it can stand antithetical onto these presuppositions. Just saying. Yeah, we posted that up yesterday, the big attack, a big Mac attack of this big fat bozo right here, the narcissist, the frumpy dumpy Trumpy. The birth of AI after 80 years. They're terrifying. Another Amplex. Glioblastoma. This guy's a hero. He's living with this. This is terrifying, but I think people have to wake up to the truth of, I think Acres, EKE is another one to look into if you're really looking for truth. If you're looking for people who are going through it. A gentleman from Acres last year, he was pissing out what he considered like pure blood. He had a kidney removed. He found out he's got cancer. It's no wonder that all these crazy ass things, including what John, unless you forgot about it already, there he is, Dr. John Campbell. Very important to bring him up. This is the mortician right here that came out with all this information ahead of time. I wanted to show you this over here because the pertinent aspect is he's showing all the shit he has to go through. He's got brain cancer. He's 34 years old. He's going to show you here what he's going through. Okay? This is real talk, people. Right? He's leading up to it. Right? So I looked at some earlier videos of him. He's going through his therapy. He had to shave his hair. He's showing how healthy and youthful he looked prior to this, just months ago. And how he knew he was going to have to shave his head and shave his hair. This gentleman has a very good attitude. Right? So I don't want to relish in it, but there he is. And I think we'll call that a video. I just wanted to remind people that there are negatives and positives to any therapy we do. We're not here, when we say miracle foods, we're not here saying, so be nice to people. Isn't that the moniker? And then we've got some really amazing research being done by Operation GCD podcast. Oh, he's got so much information. We also put recipes up. This is the famous high protein powder pudding. This one's got 6 eggs, right? And 2 scoops of protein powder with ample butter. Of course, you could use ghee, right? And then here, this is Amplex, but this is about Jacobo Greenberg. And there's some really trippy stuff here, but what you'll notice is that, wait, where is it? There should be more information because I did a whole expose on him. Where the fuck did it go? Yeah, there should be, oh, I put it up on Esoteric Principles of Light. My very heavily trafficked, what am I doing? I can't even spell. So this is a very trafficked website of mine, EPL. Some might even call it a religion, but it is principles, and it is a supplement to all or any religions. But I put a lot of information up there. I put that entire thing about the negatives of vitamin C, high dose vitamin C. You know, cortisol role in vitamin C, right? Some positives, some negatives. Silicone bases, right? We take steps into everything on this blog. Steps we take. Konrad Zuse comparing Alan Turing, John von Neumann. I mean, there's so much data and so much research here, and you can see how much data and how much research is here. I'm going the wrong way there. So, how much data, how much research? Am I going the wrong way again? Oh, no, here it is. Since 2014, right? Since 2014, power packed information. I don't even know if any of these links are still, now it's made private. Pope's resignation, made private. Still up from 2014, 11 years ago, alien war. Right, so some things are private now. We go under gematria, numerology, all of this stuff, right? But we're going to go back to some of the more pertinent and pivotal recent posts. Steps we take, went into that. Alan Turing. We talk about a lot of these subjects during live streams on this channel as well. I may put this up on more than one channel, so when I'm saying this channel, I'm referencing the 1013 consensus here, the Black Book. Alan Turing, so this is where I do it. I think I have Jacobo Greenberg here as well. Yeah, this, or I put him in here. And I do deep dives where I'm cross-referencing things. You'd be surprised at how the firewall slips away with ChatGPT, and how you can find out information that leads directly into the ninth circle and so many other things that you normally wouldn't find, right? So we do deep dives here: the Order of the Solar Temple, Neo-Temple, Templar Cult, Ritual Death, and Occult Conspiracy. We go into deep dives here, then we do things that might even seem very superficial and even abstract. This is about your health, navigating around the world that's trying to attack you and take you out every single day. Infinitum secretiori. Be well, my friends.